first ever business hot seat. We're lucky to have Don Markland wearing a Father Forge hat, even. Uh, and so I'm going to do my best to not butcher this intro. So I've known Don for 42 years.
Old man.
And uh, and but ironically, not well, a while ago, Don was actually featured in a Utah journal. He was voted or ranked or assessed as top 40 under 40 in the state of Utah. He has basically any company he's been a part of, he has risen to the top, built that company up, and then been headhunted by other companies to go do the same. And to include finance. He's been a C-suite executive, and now he's started his own business, Accountability Now, which helps businesses do what he knows best, and that's thrive in the operational environment. Uh, Fantastic resource for us. We would not be where we are without Don. And one of the best things I always get to say is I am the least performing Markland brother. I am the lowest on the totem pole. And once you listen to Don speak and see what he does, you're gonna be like, yeah, yeah, we should be in Don's program, not in Clint's program. So thanks, Don. If there's anything you want to add to that intro, please do.
I wouldn't say you're the least performing by any means, but I'll just briefly about Accountability Now, what we do. That's my business here. Our mission is we accelerate small business growth. That's what we do. We'll celebrate our 7th-year anniversary on August 18th. And now, when we first started, my very first client, and this kind of some of the stuff we'll talk about today, but where you begin is not where you end up, right? You have no idea. My very first client, I was a part owner at the time of a financial services business. I was part owner and chief revenue officer of this company that we were growing, and we were doing really well. We had grown it from 30 million to 89 million, and we were going through a sell to private equity. So we knew we were going to all have a nice exit through this sale. And I was starting to think about, okay, well, what am I going to do? Do I want to be a part of this new private equity group? Do I want to be a part of that, which I knew I didn't? And so I was already writing for Forbes at the time. I was doing some work there, and some people had started to ask for my advice on some different things that I was doing, and some success that I'd had. And that's where my wife had said, you should start your own business. And so we started Accountability Now. And my very first client wanted some help. She was a coach. I didn't even really know what a business coach was. I had my own personal high performance coach in my past, so I knew that, but I didn't know what a business coach was. And so she hired me as her business coach. And I was so excited. I just got the deal, and she was paying me about almost $600 a month for 10 calls a month. Okay, so 10 1-hour calls a month. If any of you can do math really quick, my hourly rate was very low. And I didn't do that math. I was just like, I'm getting $500 a month. This is great. Okay. And by the end of the month, I did the math, and I'm like, I think I'm making like $7 an hour. Like, I'm making like no money here. This is a disaster. This is not scalable at all. And then I started to rethink, how do I build this thing, and how do I actually do something with this business? And now you flash forward 7 years. We have 93 clients. We are in 9 different countries. We have 5 coaches, actually 6. We just brought on a 6th coach last week, and we're going to cross 3.5 million this year, and very different from $500 a month on that very first client. And it's been wonderful. And where we got into this, and what we always teach every single business and how we start is always the same. And it doesn't matter what business you're in. It doesn't matter if you're a coaching business. It doesn't matter if you're a mental health care business or a medical business, because we deal a lot with those. It doesn't matter if you're a nonprofit. We have a ton of nonprofits. The first problem that we always solve with every business is always the same. Sales solves all sins. Period, polka dot, shut the door, everything. If you haven't solved your sales problem, every other problem does not matter as much, I promise. And so many times as business owners, we get so worried about, well, I want my quality to be really good. I want what my delivery to be so perfect. And we'll spend all this time and effort to get that right. And we tell this to business owners all the time. I want you to obsess over your sales at the same level you obsess over your quality of your delivery. Like at the same pissed off nature you get when somebody makes a mistake or you make a mistake over delivery of something, I want you to do the same level of obsession on your sales. And when you can get that level of obsession, your business is going to start to grow. It will, but you have to have that passion, obsession of growing it with acquisitions of whatever it is, right? And the same thing applies for nonprofits, right? We've got a number of nonprofit groups, and we do the same principles there in nonprofits. We have 2 hospitals that we work with, and it's the same thing. Think hospitals don't care about new patients? Yeah, they do, right? That's their revenue stream. And so sales, you have to obsess over it the same way. So that's number 1, and we're going to talk a little bit about that. Number 2 is, and this one is hard for business owners to realize. It was hard for me to realize, but you don't decide what is quality. Your customers do. Everybody thinks their laundry is clean. Everybody thinks their work is brilliant. What I do is such good stuff. The only person that actually tells you that is your customers. They will tell you what's valuable, not you. And you can add all these things, or we add this, or we've added an extra call, or we give you all this extra stuff, or we give you an ebook, or we give you these courses, or even if it's not digital, we'll add, like we have a lot of HVAC companies, right? We'll do this extra cleaning, we'll do this extra this. If your customers don't deem it valuable, then it doesn't matter. It just doesn't matter. And I don't care what you say to them. If they don't think it's valuable, it's not. So you've got to learn what is valuable to your customers. And because so many times we as business owners think, well, I've added so much value, I can raise my prices. If they don't think it's valuable and you just raise your prices because you think it's valuable, they're gonna go somewhere else. And if you're not adding the right value, somebody's going to come in and sneak in with the right value, and they'll steal your customers right from underneath you, right from underneath you. And the perfect example of that is what recently happened. We just did a big YouTube video on this with Macy's and Kohl's closing so many of their stores, right? Macy's and Kohl's just announced they're closing something like 300 stores over the next year and a half. Okay. I mean, Macy's has been around, they got a parade, right? I mean, Macy's been around forever. And why are they doing this? Is because something like 10 years ago, when online shopping became so prevalent and consumers kept saying, we don't want big box stores with everything. We want niche, niche, niche. Macy's decided to double down and expand their stores and said, no, people want our brand. They want our experience. We're going to double down. They didn't listen to what the customers wanted. They thought, we're just going to give them what we know is valuable. And now 10 years later, they're closing 300 of their stores. You don't decide, is my point. You don't decide what's valuable, they will. And they'll usually do it with their wallet. And then third thing is profitability matters, cash matters. you've got to make money. Every business, usually not, I don't want to say every business, but so many business owners, oftentimes they get into whatever business it is, and they love their customers and they love their service, and they sacrifice their paychecks at times, and they start to do very wonderful altruistic things to help their employees and help their customers. And then you get 3 or 4 years into the business and maybe they're not making as much as they thought they would. And they're giving a lot of time, energy into this business. And that is a recipe for burnout as fast as anything, right? The reason why you need profitability in your business is because that's what keeps it healthy and keeps it moving. I'm going to channel Corey and Clint here for a second, but right, they'll tell you to eat. You can't fast your way to fitness. You can't just not eat. I mean, I could lose 50 pounds and just never eat anything, right? I could do that. I'd drop weight really quick, but I would eventually collapse. You have to have nourishment on a consistent basis. And that's also what money does for us as human beings. And you have profitability that goes into the business, and also you as an owner, that makes you go, man, I love my business. I love it because it allows me to go and do things with my family or whatever it is. And we stress that. We want business owners to, we restructure the financials so that you're really profitable and rewarding yourself from that, not to be arrogant or to be, boisterous about it, but to not be burned out so you can thrive off it. So those 3 ingredients, right? Sales solves all sins. Okay. Quality is determined by your customers, or value is determined by your customers, and profitability matters. And we run that play and over and over and over. And it is amazing how even the most, one of our biggest clients, they are 180 million in size. And our very first month with them, all we did was talk about, man, you guys, sales solves all sins. We have a sales problem, because they were so bogged in just service delivery. This repeats itself at every stage of a business's growth, every single stage. Sales solves all sins. Value is driven by your customers, and profitability matters. You've got to be profitable. And those are kind of the core things that we drive and we live by. So now, is it okay, Clint, if I ask some questions to the group and then drive some stuff out?
Yeah.
Is that all right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Good.
So on the call, we got, I know we got people in a car and stuff. That's okay. Some people probably at a bar, throwing some stuff back. That's okay. It's Saturday. So who I'm sure some people on here are business owners. Some people are thinking about one day starting a business. Anybody that is not starting a business or thinking, man, one day I want to start a business? Anybody like that? Okay, Caden. Yeah. Okay, very cool. Okay. Who are the business owners on the call? Okay. Okay. Very cool. I'm going to share a story that for the business owners, and Caden, you'll deal with this one day, but it's one of the most, it was a defining moment of me as an owner when I realized the importance of surrounding yourself with great people. It's why I got my first coach and realized how important it was. So this was the first business I had ownership in. It was when I was named top 40 under 40 there when I lived in Utah. I was a co-owner of a business. We were on 45th there in Murray. Okay. I'm speaking to the people in Utah. I know there's some Utahns on here. Okay. 45th in Murray. And I co-owned this lead generation outbound B2B marketing company with another guy. And we were bleeding cash. I mean, we were burning cash all the time. And so same thing, sales solves all sins. So we started to win accounts. I was getting on the phones. I mean, we were winning accounts and winning accounts, winning accounts. And we got to a point where we started to get a little bit of at least cash flow positive, and we got to a spot where I thought we were going to finally get ahead of things and we could probably make some success. And then the way the terms, we signed a big client called Casio. I don't know if any of you remember Casio. They had those really cool calculator watches when we were younger, right? They're still around, okay? But they don't make watches really anymore. They make projectors and they make weird stuff. And we landed Casio. But because they were an enterprise client, they have a little thing called terms. They wouldn't pay us on 7-day terms like some of the people. They paid us on 90-day terms. And if you ever work with an enterprise client, 90-day terms usually means 120-day terms. And I didn't know that at the time. Okay. I thought they were going to pay me on day 90. And they racked up a bill of $142,000. And I had to float all of my payroll, all of my marketing costs, everything for that whole 90 days. And we get to the day 90 or whatever it was, and I couldn't make payroll. And I remember pulling up the bank account and seeing that we couldn't make payroll next week, and we couldn't make anything next week. And I called my rep there at Casio, and I was saying, hey, you guys are behind by like 5 days. I need you to wire the money. And he was on vacation in Disney World with his family. And he was just chatting with me. His name was Scott. And he's like, dude, I'm sorry, I'm on vacation. I can't do anything. And I said, look, I'll wait on the phone. Like, transfer me to somebody. Like, I'll wait. You don't understand. Like, I have to have this money. And he's like, I'll take care of it. I'll take care of it next Friday when I'm back. And I'm like, no, Scott, you don't understand. I have to have it. And he hung up the phone. And I just sat there. And nobody else knew this stress. My wife didn't know the stress. Then we had 50 employees sitting out there on the call floor making phone calls. And I just sat there and I didn't know what to do. And I didn't want to go tell all these employees, hey, nobody's getting paid next week. And I didn't want to go ask them. I mean, we had single parents out there. We had people that were living paycheck to paycheck. To say they were living paycheck to paycheck was unfair. They were living below that. And so I got desperate, and we outsourced our paychecks to a group down in Salt Lake. And I called the CEO of that company. His name was Wade. And I called Wade, and like a peddler, I begged Wade to cover the payroll. I showed him the accounts receivable. In fact, I showed him all my books. I said, Wade, I'm begging you, will you please cover our payroll? I'll pay you everything back plus interest, right? I have no choice. I have nowhere else to turn. I mean, there was nobody I knew that could float that type of money. And Wade, as an unbelievable act of kindness and a tender mercy, he floated the payroll. He said, you got it. I trust you. And I said, Wade, I will never do this again, which was a lie, because in 3 months I did it again. Okay. I have 100% did it again in 3 months. Okay. But we paid him back in massive interest and in massive spades. And that moment really was impactful for me as an owner, because you see all these Instagram stories of this guy doing this morning routine, right? This thing that's all viral, right? And they're making all this money, and these guys in private jets, and you're like, wow, to be a business owner, that's so glamorous. Nobody's posting online, sitting there on a Thursday late afternoon, stressed out, knowing I've done everything right from a sales perspective. I've corrected the problem. We are finally profitable. But because of an enterprise client and their weird procedures, it's going to kill our business. And that stress, it feels like a 500-pound gorilla just sitting on your chest, and everybody's livelihood is on you. They don't post about that. And they don't post about that feeling of calling somebody and begging for money. I mean, I felt like a peddler. I felt like a beggar. And he was so kind to just say, sure. I to this day, I don't know what I would have done if he had said, dude, are you seriously begging me for money? Get out of here. I don't know what I would have done. Right. I don't know who I would have called next. Right. And they don't post those videos because it's not glamorous. Right. It's not sexy. It doesn't get clicks. But I'll tell you, I learned more from that moment of what it takes to run a business, to deal with difficult things and deal with challenges, and what I can really handle than any of the times where we've closed big accounts, any of the times where I've looked at a bank account and went, man, we're killing it. We're really thriving. I learned more from that than anything else. I mean, even in the last year, we had one employee accidentally wire $25,000 to an employee, a random employee, random freelancer employee, right? It's an enormous mistake, right? They randomly wired $25,000. And I said, you know what? We'll solve this. It created no stress because I've had to beg somebody for money. I've had to call someone and be a peddler, and I learned how to deal with it. And yeah, don't worry, we got that 25,000. We didn't get all the 25,000 back. Okay, but we got most of it back. Okay, but those little things that occur will define you. As a good friend of mine used to always say, crisis defines leadership, and it shows your character more than any of the successes will. And that's what it taught me more than anything ever. So to summarize this, and then we'll have time for any questions if anybody's got any questions. And then I'm happy to talk about also, because people ask this a lot, about the tariffs of what's that's going to impact people's business. Because I was on 2 panels this week. People want to talk about tariffs because we deal with stuff internationally, and unless people don't know about tariffs, have anybody heard about the tariffs? Does this hit Utah yet? You guys heard about this? Okay, it's big news over here in Florida. But whatever business you're in, get your sales process right, get it on autopilot, and make sure it's running without your involvement. It should run. You should know what it is, but it should run, and it should get the most attention, obsessive attention. Your customers will tell you your value. You should be checking with them constantly and staying ahead of it, right? Don't just add AI. Oh, we have AI with it, right? Make sure you're giving them the right value, right? And they'll tell you what it is. And then third, take care of your profitability, because it'll burn you and it'll catch up. And that is unforgiving. That is unforgiving as the IRS. It comes after you and it'll win. So we got some time. Let's add, what questions do people have? Anything?
I'm sure we do have some questions. I just want to thank you, Don. I jotted down a couple notes. Still learning from you, and I really appreciate it. What came to mind was if you're starting a business, you'd better talk to your wife and let her know that you're hiring a mistress, because your business is going to crawl into bed with you sometimes, and you can't expect any relationship, especially with a third party, to not have some amount of stress. You wouldn't expect no stress in your marriage, and so your business is going to carry a little bit of stress. And that's one thing they don't tell you, is when you sign up to be an entrepreneur, you are signing up for a little bit of extra stress, and you're bringing a third party into the marriage, and make sure everybody is on board with
100%.
that.
I want to add to that. That's a very good point. I was a part of, and I don't follow him anymore, but I used to be a part of this 10X community. This is Grant Cardone's community, and I've since left that community because he's become so politically involved. But there was a time where I was a part of that community a lot, and Grant did. I was actually very associated with that community. I got to spend time with Grant personally and their whole team, and I remember we were part of like an inner circle roundtable, and a person said, almost in a similar vein with what you said, Clint, where they said, "Hey, my wife is not on the same page with my entrepreneurial goals. And he said, how do I solve that? And Grant, I would thought, because there were lots of people in the chat saying like, you got the wrong wife and all this kind of crap, right? And I was like, I'm interested to see how Grant handles this. And he said, he was very clear. He said, listen, you start with the same page. You get on the same page together. What is your combined goal together? If you're not on the same page, it's not going to work. It's not going to work. And you can't say, well, you're not on my same page, so it's your fault. He said, that is your bedrock, you and your spouse. So start there. And like he went through a whole big thing about marriage and about, look, don't disrupt that. Keep your family strong, get your marriage strong, and then figure out, okay, what do we need to do? And he even called the guy out. He's like, what are you saying? Like, I don't want to work anymore. And I just want to go start my own business and not make any money. He's like, of course she's not on the same page, because that's crazy, right? Like, let's take care of what matters and then build from there. And you need to be on the same page with your family and know God, it does. It's stressful. It's stressful, and you've got to have everybody a part of it.
Okay, from the chat, Caden asked, how do you decide which idea/business offering is worth committing to?
Great idea, Caden. So let's talk about that. Okay, the power of good ideas or original ideas. So I have a background in musical theater. So I'm going to share a silly story about musical theater. So there was a time when I was in college, I didn't want to go into business. I thought I was going to go to New York and be the greatest Broadway performer in history. And I've actually told my wife this, that, in a couple of years, once we're fully stepped out of the business, we're going to go move to New York, and I get to have my own midlife crisis and go try to be an actor, but I won't be broke. I'll be able to just have the business fund me, so I won't have to be a waiter. I can just still go be a Broadway actor. So I'm planning my midlife crisis. This is my goal. And she's like, you do whatever you got to do. That's fine. So here's the musical theater thing. So some of you might have heard of a guy named Andrew Lloyd Webber and Tim Rice. They wrote Phantom of the Opera. They wrote Jesus Christ Superstar. They're very, very successful. Tim Rice worked with Elton John and wrote a little musical called The Lion King, that little cartoon, right? Okay, so very successful. Well, when they first got started, Tim Rice knew nothing about musical theater, zero. He was a rock and roll guy. He actually approached a publishing group about a book that he wanted to write, and then maybe an album, and they rejected him. And they said, I don't think you know anything, but there's a guy named Andrew Lloyd Webber you should talk to. He's trying to find somebody help him write musicals. So he went and met him, and he's like, I don't know anything about musicals. So they tried their very first musical, and it flopped. No theater producer would even do it. And their very first job was a school. They said, hey, we need somebody that could write a 20-minute educational musical piece. And so they said, well, shoot, okay, well, we'll take that gig. And they said, won't pay anything, but it'll get you some exposure. They go, well, that's all we need right now because we're broke. Okay, we just need exposure. So the two of them sat down, and they came down and they said, we need an idea. And this is where Caden was asking, how do you know the idea? And they said, well, if you're starting from scratch, the best ideas have success leaves clues. Success leaves clues. So you know what ideas work. And they started to look at all of the successful stories out there, and they realized, wait a minute, there's two stories that are in England. Remember, they're in England at the time. He said, there's two stories right now. This is 1960s England. There's two stories that are really doing well right now. The Bible and this new book that's kind of blowing up called James Bond. And no joke, Tim Rice said, well, James Bond's probably going to be a flash in the pan. That's probably never going to go anywhere after these first couple of books. So let's do something from the Bible, because that's going to last. Okay. No joke. That's literally what he said. Okay. So they picked a story from the Bible, and they wrote a 20-minute musical based on Joseph and this little coat, this colorful coat that he wore. And that 20-minute free little thing got then picked up by numerous schools. And then a production company said, we loved your show. We love that. We will pay for you guys to do 3 years. We'll give you salary for 3 years to just write a musicals, and we'll produce it. And the first one they wrote was Jesus Christ Superstar, and then the rest became history. But the point of that story is, and they both have said this in separate interviews, when you're trying to figure out your first idea, success leaves clues. Okay, it doesn't have to be, well, I've got to be totally original. Remember, success leaves clues. Okay, so you can go and look what is already being done and what people are buying and what is being done. So that can tell you. Okay, that's my point to earlier is your customers will tell you what value is. Okay, so that's important. Then number 2 is their first idea failed. Right, they wrote a whole musical and marketed it, and no one touched it. So you try again and you try again, right? If you're getting hung up on trying to get the first idea right, you won't, right? You won't. I've now had 4 businesses and 2 of them did not produce any revenue. Okay. 2 of them did not produce any zero absolute revenue. And it's terrible because in my mind, I still think, I wonder if I can get them going eventually, right? I need to let them die. Okay. And so to answer it simply, Caden, if I'm trying to start a new business, 1, I'm going to look what the market is already doing because success leaves clues. Where's it going? What is it doing? That's going to give me my first inclination. And I'm going to look at what they're doing. And then 2, I'm going to try ideas. But I'm going to follow my steps. I already told you. I'm going to find my pathway to yes, my pathway to sales first, right? If you haven't read like The Lean Startup, that book, you should read it because he talks about how they did everything wrong the first time, and the second time they did it, they started selling on day 1 before they even had a product. They literally started selling their software before it was even built because he realized, wow, sales solves all sins. Let's go sell and get some yeses, and then we'll figure it out. Does that help answer Caden a little bit? Yeah. He's on mute, but he's saying, Carlton, you're so charming. My God.
No. He said, yes, sir. Thanks.
When I started Accountability Now, I was, again, a full-time executive. I was working 60 hours a week, and I was working from 4 in the morning until 6:30 a.m. And then I would get up with my family and I would do those things. And I had a pretty good morning routine with them. And then I would work, and then I would spend time with them in the evening. And then from 8:30 until 10, I would do Accountability Now. And I did that for 2 years until we could build it up. Yeah, you're okay. Come on in.
Yeah, I think I can relate to that schedule.
Yeah.
I've got an interesting question. So I can say most people in the entrepreneur space starting out new, sales sucks. It really does. And you want to balance. You don't want to sound like a sleazy salesman or anything like that. And Corey and I, we tend to put a lot of cowbell into retention. Now, do you consider retention in the same on the same stool, the one leg on the same stool as sales, or would you put retention as one leg on the same stool as that value principle you talked about?
They're two separate pieces. Okay, they're probably the same stool of your business. Okay, but so you're talking about like an MRR type business, an acquisition type business, or a monthly recurring revenue business. Okay, subscription type business. Okay, retention is vital. Okay, you want long retention, and that's important, and that's a different initiative that has to do with value for sure, and that has to do with continual increased value. Okay, or at least the continual perception of increased value, because in any retention business or continuity model, remember remember as human beings, all of us become numb. Okay, I'm going to speak to the fitness guys on the call, right? If I do the same exercise, the same amount of lifts, same time, same weight, my body will adjust and will no longer impact it over time. Is that true? I mean, because you become conditioned to it. And it's not, so you have to increase the weight, or in business terms, I have to increase the value over time, or it stops working. Okay, that's the principle of a continuity model. And that's the principle of a continuity model. You have to, over time, to maintain retention, or you just have to do your math and know, this is the lifetime value and this is how long they will last, and that's okay. And I'm just going to accept that, like, our customers are 18 months. We know that, but sometimes they last longer, but we know 18 months, that's good. We've got that. Okay, because we've done the math. But we approach that very differently than new acquisition. New acquisition gets an obsessive approach every day, multiple times a day, without fail. Like, that has a dedicated person, that has a dedicated belly button to it, that I want somebody on top of that no matter what, all the time. And it doesn't mean I don't want people on top of retention, I do, but I want an obsession over acquisition because of the compounding effect of acquisition. It's astronomical.
No,
Good.
that was great. If I was going to summarize that, it's like progressive overload for your value. It's like, yeah, the same workout isn't going to work all the time. That is great. Great analogy. Nailed it. Thank you.
Speaking of fitness, guys, I figured you guys couldn't catch, a hard metaphor. I had to dumb it down to.
Thanks. Once again, that's why you are, the top-notch Markland brother. You got to speak in small terms for me, for
Very, very,
the
really,
Army
really
guy.
good.
Thank you.
Yes.
Anybody else have a question for Don? Great resource while he's here.
I have a question just kind of along those same lines of, retention versus acquiring new customers and different things like that. When you get to a point where you're having to turn work away, um, like I guess I go back to the military cycle, where, we have kind of a ramp up time and then we go on deployment and then we kind of do this 5-year cycle. And I'm wondering if there's some kind of cycle that works within sales to help kind of keep that workload. So you might have a ramp up period where
Sure.
you're
So,
bringing in a bunch of customers, and then you have a kind of a stability cycle,
uh,
or is that always bring new customers in?
okay, so we deal with this all the time, particularly in home services. Are you in home services, Nick? Is that the business?
We do audio visual, so we have different install projects that we do,
Yep,
and so
commercial, different type of things,
right.
audio visual. Okay, so
Yeah,
but it's very project based, and so you're having to turn it. So you turn projects away because your crews are all full.
right.
Yep. Okay.
Hmm.
So it's a labor occupancy problem. Okay.
Right.
Yep. Okay. So and I'm not trying to speak specifically to Nick, but I'm going to pick on him a little bit, but then it'll apply to everybody. Okay. So this is a math problem, is what this is. Okay. You have to do the math to know. And again, remember what I said. Remember my very first statement for everybody, right when I came on: sales solves all sins. If I'm turning away work, sales solves all sins. Okay. I need to have a consistency in my sales process so that I can then know my very specific number. In this exact scenario, we deal with this all the time, where we'll have HVAC companies or people that have crews. They'll be like, well, we don't need more work, we're turning it away. I'm like, okay, well, let's do your occupancy percentage, because I then should be able to know when my crew is at 70 to 80% occupied all the time, and I have consistent sales coming in, it is time to hire a new crew. The math tells me that, not my instincts, not my guts. The math tells me it. But right now, you've always been scared to hire a new crew. Why? Because when you hire a new crew and you don't have sales, what happens, Nick?
Get overloaded.
Yeah, you got over.
Turn work away. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So this is why you got to, one, get your sales problem fixed, and you get it consistent. We got great marketing, great leads, and we're selling consistently. And now it is easy for me to hire the right crews at the right times so that I don't have to turn work away. The minute you start turning work away, they are going to a competitor, and you're giving them the chance to beat you. You're giving them a chance to be better than you and say, God, look, don't go to those guys. And then you're going to give them the chance to give word of mouth to them. You're giving them all the chance. And so I say, I don't care how overloaded you are. Get your sales right. Get them right. Get your crews, then get your ratios right. Know your occupancy percentages. And I'm not saying everybody has to grow to 100 million. I'm not saying everybody has to do all these big Don Markland ambitious things, but do not turn work away. Because that, and I'll tell you, that puts such a bad taste in a customer's mouth. When you turn them away, they go somewhere else and they say, yeah, they wouldn't even work with me. And that person will be a word of mouth referral to your competitor. You didn't lose one opportunity, you lost multiple. Solve that problem. And I'm not picking on you, Nick. I know that. Okay, you're awesome. Okay, but
Yeah,
I'm telling
thanks.
you, sales solves all sins, and then your occupancy percentage will pay off. Okay, know that number to a T. When my crews are this percentage occupied over whatever 60 days, now it's time to hire a new crew. Ready, set, go.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, good question. That's a very common question. It's a good question.
Okay, awesome. Anybody else? Skylar, you got something, man? Or you just keep clicking your camera on?
Yeah, I'm both. Um,
Thick beard,
yeah,
dude.
so I'm,
Look
yeah,
at-
thanks.
How long did
Been
that take
working
you?
on it. It's been working on it for a couple of years now.
Yeah, at least. Holy cow, dude. Jeez.
So I'm an analytics consultant, right? So I'm working on helping businesses improve their analytics maturity. Um,
You just used every
so
buzzword. Buzzword bingo, I won.
you got it.
So tell me actually what you do without using a buzzword.
Yeah, I get that a lot.
Now, okay, pause for a second. This is for everybody. If you're getting that a lot, then you're speaking Greek and everybody else speaks English. So knock it off. Okay. You have to say terms they understand. And I don't care what you think it is, right? If yours, my dad speaks Spanish, my brother Benjo speaks Spanish, and they'll sometimes speak Spanish together. And I sometimes think they're talking about me. It drives me crazy. Okay. If you're speaking a language that you love and they don't understand it, it doesn't matter how loudly you say it or how slowly, they will never understand it. So saying I'm an analytics, right when you said I'm an analytics consultant, I thought, oh, no one knows what you do. Right. And then
Yep.
you doubled down and said, I make whatever analytics maturity. And I was like, oh, no one really knows what you do. So let's solve this right now. Tell me what problem you solve.
Yeah, that's actually one of the problems that I'm having is that I'm trying to map that value because I understand it, right? And I had a conversation with a buddy of mine yesterday about this, and I understand it, but I know that that I'm not able to map that value to my customers. And so I'm struggling to explain
Okay,
what
we're
I
gonna
do,
solve this. We're gonna
right?
solve this right. Everybody's gonna watch this right here. What
Love
problem?
it.
Tell me the problem you solve.
Okay, so problem I solve is I help people get visibility into their business.
Okay,
I
we're gonna
don't,
keep building on that. Okay, now, first of
okay.
all, this is very important for everybody. If you're gonna say I solve this problem and it begins with I help, you're not solving a problem. Okay? There's no such thing as I help. I help. That's not solving a problem. I solve this. Okay. Okay. Take the damn hill. Okay. Take it. You understand, Skylar? Okay.
Yeah.
You don't say, well, I help you figure out, okay. Okay. I give you visibility into your business. Right. Okay. Now that's not a problem. Okay. So what are they lacking? Visibility into what?
I guess depends on, so for example, in if we take the last example, right? We take Nick's business. It's the it's the visibility of where is his Where's his capacity at from a
Okay.
crew
Yeah.
standpoint?
Okay. So
Right?
let's get even more tighter. Let's get them and speak in business terms, right? I give you visibility into profitability, right? Do you do that?
Yep.
Write that down. Get a tattoo under your beard on the neck so nobody can see it. Put it right there. Okay. I give you visibility into your profitability every day. Do you use Power BI? What do you use? What do you use to do it?
Metabase.
Okay, Metabase. Okay, so I give you visibility into your profitability. Okay, I give you visibility into what else? Give me 3 things that you give them visibility into, and don't say depends. What
Yep.
do you give visibility into?
I get visibility into uh the health of your or operational, let's see, your well, the costs, right? Your operational
We
costs.
already said that. We said profitability, so that's all going to go under that. So we said
Okay.
profitability.
It's
What
all
else?
gonna go into that. Um, yep. I'm sucking at this right now.
That's okay. It's hard. It's hard. Okay.
Yeah.
But I give visibility into the profitability of your business. I give visibility into the. Do you build dashboards? Is that what you give?
Yeah. Build dashboards and workflow automation.
Oh, why didn't you say workflow automation? Skylar, I'm going to find you. I'm going to bust your ass, man.
I
Why
love
didn't you
it.
start with that? Okay. So I build workflow automations in your business, give you visibility and the profitability of your business, and improve your overall spend so you can lower FTEs. True or false?
Yeah. True. All of it.
That's
My
so much,
yeah, it's
that is
funny
so
because
much
that's
better
the
than
thing.
I'm a
Yeah.
analytics
Wow.
security blah, 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 blah. Right? Does that
Yeah.
make sense? Okay, I'm not picking on
Yeah.
you.
No,
Okay.
no.
Yeah.
I look, I'm a big boy. I appreciate it.
Yeah. What you were saying before was not solving a problem.
Yeah.
You were a solution searching for a problem. Okay. And that's not real. But what we just did was demonstrate I solve a problem, and people have problems. My gosh, people have problems. Businesses have problems, and they will buy solutions. And if you're a consultant like yours, like you, okay, you need to go solve your sales, go find your lead flow, go find that, right? And go learn. And that means you have to market. That means you have to invest in marketing to find those people and then articulate, this is the problem that I solve. And if I ever hear you say those words again, I'm gonna find you and we're shaving your beard. All that work you did, it's gonna be shaved. And then you're gonna deal with that. Nobody wants to see that chin, I'm sure.
I'll take it. Yeah. Yeah. My wife definitely does not.
Yeah. Was that helpful? Was that helpful?
It
Yeah.
was. It was. Thank you, Don. I really appreciate that.
Okay. Remember what everybody's heard there. Don't ever begin with right? Like even if I'm like if I'm a fitness coach, right, on here, okay, I would never say, I help you discover how ways to no. I I you will lose weight with me. Okay. I solve that. Say words that people hear and go, oh yeah, that resonates. If you're beginning things with I help, it's like, geez, I don't need a 7 dwarf helping me, right? I need a solver. Okay. Good. Great, Skylar. Thank you.
Yeah, so powerful there. Yeah, taking mental notes as well. So awesome, Don. If nobody else has a question, Don, how can people find you and follow what all the many things that you do?
Yeah. We're very active on Instagram, executivecoach.don. You can do that. And obviously through Corey and Clint, you're in the right place, right? Being a part, you should always be a part of a group like Father Forge, because being a business owner is a lonely road. It is a lonely road, and you are a part of the right group. I get no incentive from this, even though I do know Clint and Corey, and they're okay individually, like they're okay people. But I am a part of my own groups as well. And being a business owner is hard. It's tough. It's a lonely road. And so be a part of that. And If any of you ever have questions or anything, both Clint and Corey can get a hold of me, and you can say, if some of you are like, hey, what you just went through with Skylar, I'm dealing with, it would be very easy for you then to get my email information or anything, get over to you, and they'll get it to you, right? If you message me on social, it won't be me, it'll be somebody else talking to you. But if you get with either Clint or Corey, they can get you my information. They can contact you back. Boy, Nick dressed up fast. Look at that. Looks sharp. He's getting Easter pictures done this weekend. So awesome. Thank you, Clint and Corey. Thank you for all you do for so many people and for letting me be part of this. Anything I can do to help, you let me know.
Okay. All right. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks.
Awesome. What do you got, Corey, to close us out?
I just wanted to just show some gratitude and appreciation to Don. I mean, that was amazing. That was awesome. I learned a lot from that, and I know there's the people on this call are going to learn a lot from this, and we're going to pass it around to the whole group. So you just provided a pretty cool service, and I just really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Hope everybody has a great weekend. Okay.
Thanks,
All
Don.
right, see you in the chats, dudes.
Okay. See ya.
Thanks.